Welcome to another edition of Hawk Off the Press after the final score. We are here on a very late night in College Park, recording this at about, 2:30 in the morning, I think it is?
I don't know. We're just doing this on adrenaline, I guess. But...
Well, while we have the adrenaline here, what a game here from the Hawkeyes. They looked like the number 5 team in the country there.
Yeah, and I think that they made a lot of teams left on their schedule very nervous with what they might have seen here tonight.
I'd be nervous if I had.
Yeah, I mean, This was hitting the road and playing a team that was 4-0 and that, had done a lot of wonderful things on offense.
Yeah, with a lot of NFL talent, too.
Right, and the quarterback had been sensational, and they just embarrassed them. I mean, they brutalized them. 6 interceptions, 4 turnovers in the second quarter alone, 31 points in that quarter. It was an avalanche. I mean, it was an absolute cave-in. It felt like the field was tilted towards the Chesapeake Bay.
It really was, though. And, I kind of had to pinch myself as I'm typing these numbers. Like, are we really talking about 6 interceptions here in one game? But it seemed to be kind of the total package there. A lot of confidence. I think that's probably, in my small sample size, as kind of relaxed as I've seen Kirk Ferentz be.
Yeah, and Spencer Petras looked relaxed. I mean, this was his best game, I think. And he had some nice games at the end of last year, but this, I mean, besides throwing a nice football, they go to the sideline after scoring, and boom, they had to go right back onto the field again because the defense had gotten the ball back. And with aplomb, the Petras and the offense would just go right down, score, okay, bam, they got the ball back again and again, and it just was, it was Groundhog Day for the Terrapins, and it was just a. I mean, 31 points in a quarter means they were taking advantage of everything, and they did.
Yeah, and the incredible part, too, is even if you take out those 31 points, Iowa would still win that game.
Yeah.
That's the incredible part about it.
Because there were still 2 other interceptions, and there were still other touchdown drives. Yeah, I mean, the offense is getting overlooked when the defense has a 6th pick as opposed to pick sixes.
Yeah.
but I mean, Petras was involved in 5 touchdowns. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He had 2 keepers for touchdowns.
And 21 for 30. When you look at that, 70% completion percentage, his best of the season.
Pretty slick game. And what was really interesting to me was when asking Petras about the Maryland quarterback, whose name I can never get right. I'm sorry.
I'm going to try it with Talia Tagovailoa. I think I might have gotten that there.
Okay. That sounds all right. But this is a good quarterback, and they made him look bad. I mean, they made him look bad, and Petras was sympathetic after the game. He wasn't being condescending. He was sympathetic. He said, our defense has made a lot of quarterbacks look bad. And Petras sees these guys in practice, 3, 4, or 5 days a week, every week. He knows. He wasn't being condescending. He knows.
Yeah, he has to deal with it all the time.
And I'm sure it's made him better.
Oh, yeah. If I was going up against, I wouldn't be a Division I high major quarterback here. But if I was, and I was going up against that, I could see how, having Riley Moss, Terry Roberts, who Ferentz said today would be a starter otherwise, but when there are just 2 very experienced corners ahead of him, he hasn't been that way on the depth chart. Yeah,
I mean, that's just 6 interceptions, 6 different guys. That's nuts. You never see that, do you?
No, I've never seen it.
No, I mean, 31 points in a quarter, you don't see it. Iowa hadn't done it in 19 years, and the last team they did it to was Akron, okay?
Probably a little bit of a different recruiting
Maryland had never had 6 picks in a game since the 1940s.
Wow. That's incredible.
So it's like, okay, I know that it's going to be all looking ahead right away because it's Penn State. If Penn State beats Indiana on Saturday night, you've got a matchup of two teams that are going to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
You don't want to give this game short shrift. This is one that you kind of want to, if you're Iowa fans, you want to dwell on all weekend and savor it because it was just too good.
Oh, yeah. Rewatch it a couple times.
Right. You don't want to, it's like, let's not jump ahead right away. But this Penn State thing is going to be, as Ferentz said in his postgame press conference, it's the week is going to be a circus.
Oh, yeah.
We're assuming the Penn State beats Indiana Saturday night. Okay.
Probably a pretty safe assumption.
You don't
but
know.
You never know.
But we expect it. A top 5 matchup hasn't happened in Kinnick Stadium. I'm talking 2 top 5 teams since 1985. It's a long time.
I wasn't born yet.
Well, trust me, it's a long time ago. And that was the epic 1-2 game, Iowa-Michigan, that they'll talk about forever. But this game looks like it's going to be a 4-5, and maybe there'll be voters who look at Iowa and say maybe Iowa should be the 4 instead of the 5.
Yeah, they looked like at least a New Year's 6. Now, obviously, a lot can happen.
It was one great game, and let's not forget that a week ago they struggled to beat Colorado State.
Yeah, that is a great point.
But the curve is swinging up, not down.
Yeah, where there's the pessimism after Colorado State, where it's like, okay, did this team just get lucky? They played 2 teams that had really high expectations that now aren't really expected.
Yeah. But the defense is the constant, and not just the defense, but the special teams.
Oh, yeah.
And when the offense is, all the offense has to be is competent and a really good protector of the football.
Yeah.
And they're going to be trouble for everybody.
Well, you look at it, the running game wasn't spectacular today. I think it was 3.5 yards per carry, which is better than what they've been averaging this year.
But when they needed those yards, they got them. I mean, in their first scoring drive, Goodson had runs 5 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards.
That adds up.
Yeah. And so what their yards per carry were when they needed the yards as opposed to later in the game, I think it's a better number than that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because when you look at that on paper, it's like, oh man, that's okay. But it also seemed like Tyler Goodson, he had that big catch there too. So a lot of the running backs are doing
that was a 10-yard pass, 67-yard touchdown, but a 10-yard pass, and Tyler Goodson being a running back. and I rewatched that about 5 times, and the moves he made on the safety. Oh, the poor guy. I mean, nobody.
That'll be some nightmares when they're rewatching film there.
Yeah, and speaking of night, it's late and we got to get back to our hotel.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in to an edition of After the Final Score. I'll be back with an edition of Hawk Off the Press this week ahead of the big Penn State matchup.